there, and welcome to the Secrets of Organ Playing podcast. I'm your host, Vidas Pinkevicius. Today's guest is Dr. Heather Hernandez, an organist from Phoenix, Arizona, and she is an choir accompanist and organist for the Catholic Church there, and she has lots of insights to share today with how to manage your time when you have family responsibilities, right? What can be inspiring when you have family, and also Heather will share her experience when studying in Paris with the great French master Madame Langlais. And you will find all about her research. Her research topic was on chant-based works by Naji Hakim. So I hope you will find this conversation inspiring, and you will use her insights in your practice. Our connection wasn't particularly good, and I hope you can forgive us a little bit of technical difficulties we were having and sound delays, but I hope you can understand most of the things that we were talking about with Heather. So let's go to the show. So, welcome Heather. I'm so delighted that we're having this conversation. We've been colleagues at UNL, at University of Nebraska at Lincoln, but many years ago, right? Tell me this. When was the last time we spoke?
I moved to Arizona in 2004 after finishing my coursework, so it must have been that semester.
Great. So a lot of things have happened, right? So, but for the beginning, can you tell our listeners around the world basically a little bit about yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Okay, well, I am Heather Hernandez, and I've been playing organ for church since I was 13. And currently, I'm the organist at St. Thomas the Apostle Catholic Church here in Phoenix.
Fantastic. We will talk about more in more detail in a minute. But usually, I'd like to know how you first fall in love with the organ. Do you remember the time from your childhood? Maybe somebody introduced to you the organ. Can you tell us the story?
Yes, definitely my childhood. I started with piano lessons when I was about 7, but I grew up in the Episcopal Church and I heard the organ played every Sunday at service and sort of just, absorbed it, never really thought about it. And then later, as playing the piano, my piano teacher also played the organ at her church, and I just got more interested in this instrument where you could have all these sounds instead of just the one piano sound. And then I started lessons, and the rest is history.
Fantastic. And what was the first organ you touched and played? Do you remember?
Yeah, so it was the one at Grace Episcopal Church in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and it was in Austin.
Mm-hmm. Austin.
And then, Austin.
What kind of organ that was? Maybe do you remember the number of manuals?
2 manuals.
2 manuals, right? Was it electro-pneumatical or mechanical action? Do you remember that?
Electro-pneumatic.
Pneumatic, okay. Electro-pneumatical.
I didn't play a tracker. I didn't play a tracker until much later.
Oh, fantastic. And what kind of room in that church you found? Maybe that was a reverberant room or dry acoustics?
Pretty dry. They have red carpet in the church.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So you had a musical beginning, right? You had a good piano background, right? And
yes.
That really usually helps, as you know, with the organ, right? To have a good piano technique. Do you advise organists around the world to start their studies at the piano first, or they can try the organ first?
I think piano is very helpful.
Piano helpful, right? Right.
Add me on the organ.
Oh, how about? Are there any difficulties for the pianists who first play the organ? Do you have to adjust the touch a little bit, or the depression of the keys are different? How do you think?
Yes, yeah.
Adjust. Great.
Approach to legato and connected notes. Releases, I don't think about releases as much with piano like you do with the organ. Then the biggest obstacle is learning to play with your feet, and so you're using a different line for your feet versus what the left hand is doing. So I remember when I started, I did have difficulty with that, but I knew I would be.
I remember, Heather, we first met through our former professor, Pamela Reuter-Finstra. Do you remember her?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah, she was the first big mentor after I went to college.
And can you tell us a little bit how did your studies with Pamela go?
She was the first one that just really exposed me to tons of organ literature, and so I play everything from early music to contemporary music. And she was the first one that just really opened my eyes to the unlimited possibilities of the organ and encouraged me to go to Europe. So I went to the academy in Italy, and then I ended up studying in Paris.
Fantastic. Yeah. We will talk about Italy and Paris just in a moment. But I remember too when I first met Pamela in Sweden, in Gothenburg Organ Academy, back in 2000, together with Oshra, and yes, she was very, very generous with her insights, how to play the early music and how to try different keyboards, for example clavichord, right? Did you have experience with clavichord when we were studying with Pamela?
No, I didn't. I only had the clavichord when I went to the academy in Italy, and I didn't do anything with harpsichord until I was at UNL.
Right. So Italy, you did go to Smarano Organ Academy, as I understand, right?
That was in 1999.
1999, great. How did you find those Italian organs? Were they very different from your experience in the United States?
The one that I was mainly playing, which I think was in Trento, I can't remember exactly where it was more of a North German style, but it was definitely my biggest exposure at the time with larger tracker organs. Before that, I'd only played the Obedient at the former Cornerstone Church.
Right, and Italian organs, of course, are generally very gentle in touch, right?
Yes.
But Obedient organs that you mentioned, Opus 8 at former Cornerstone Chapel, also had this gentle touch. But I would think more Italian influence is on St. Mark's on the campus. Do you remember that instrument at UNL?
Yes,
right.
I actually played that one, but I knew about it.
Great. So, what happened first? Your studies in your academy in Smarano in Italy, or your studies in Paris? What happened first?
Italy was actually right before I went to Paris. So I finished my master's at UNL in 1999, and then that August I went to the Smarano Academy, and then in late September, early October is when I moved to Paris.
Fantastic. Do you remember the title or the topic of your master's thesis?
I actually didn't have a master's thesis because it was performance program, but I did my 2 recitals. I played a recital in Kimball Recital Hall, and then I had a early music recital at Cornerstone.
Right. Do you remember what was the most challenging thing during that time for you during master program?
Well, that was actually the one time I didn't have a church position. The first year I had a graduate teaching assistantship for accompanying, so that's actually when I really got into more piano playing and accompanying soloists. And then the second year, I was a graduate teaching assistant for music history.
Mm-hmm. Was it difficult to assist professors
Yes.
to grade papers like that, right? Tell us a little bit what kind of responsibilities did you have at that time?
That second year for music history, I was actually doing a lot of bibliography research for the different textbooks for Baroque class, medieval class, 20th century class, romantic class. The professor I was helping was working on some big project, and he needed lots of bibliography stuff updated, so I did a lot of that.
Right.
It was research than teaching.
But of course, your bibliography skills, researching skills, of course, did help you later on, right? When you were preparing a more extensive document like DMA, right?
Yes.
Obviously. So we'll talk about also. It's very interesting that United States educational system at the time I found very different from Lithuanian, because as you know, we finished with Aushra our first masters in Lithuania, but then we had to finish our second masters at the Eastern Michigan University. And you know what struck me, or even us, both of us, this focus on research. You see, this requirement not only to perform, but also to do some reading and writing and discussing and thinking, basically doing research, right? Gathering materials. Do you think that's a good trend in American system?
Well, it definitely helped my performance skills, but the research part is important too. So it was difficult to balance all of that, especially at the DMA level.
Right. They usually say that if you want to be a good performer, like a concert organist, right, you don't need basically DMA degree for that, right? You have to win maybe competitions, go to study for performance certificates and other performance diplomas, right? But not necessarily this research degree or doctorate degree, right? Did you find in yourself, did your research help the performance, or vice versa? Maybe as a researcher you were more benefited by your performance practice and skills?
I think the research part definitely more well-rounded position.
Right.
Instead of just, sitting down and scoring, yes, I can play this, but do I really understand it, and can I convey it to the audience so it makes sense, it's not just this technical show.
So a lot of people who start to play the organ or the piano first and then later transfer to the organ, a lot of people fall in love with the repertoire, with magnificent organ works of Bach, other composers like Franck and Vidor, right? And they try to play them and maybe manage to do them technically well, right, or well enough.
Yes.
But a lot of people lack this well-rounded knowledge, as you say, this theoretical background, right? To see through the notes, to translate the notes, right? So, do you think that it's important to analyze the pieces?
I think so.
Right.
And especially organists. I mean, organs are so different, throughout the country and the time periods. The way I play from American is not totally the same as on a French organ. But you have to know how they all worked. I mean, that was one reason I wanted to study in Paris, was so I could play the French organs in France.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about your experience in Paris. How did you first became aware of the possibility for you to go? Where was the influencer, or who inspired you to go?
Okay, well, that actually all started in 1996. I was doing my last year at Bethany College, study with Feenstra, and she was now teaching at Eastern Michigan. And it was the first year I had email, so we were still in touch by email, and she had just gone to the University of Michigan conference, and Marie-Louise Longley was there for one of the speakers' recitals, big event. I don't even know. It may have been a long lay event. I can't remember. But anyway, so she just wrote back. I was working on where I was going to go to grad school for my master's, and then she said that Madame Langlais was looking for American students to come study with her in Paris, and she got her contact information, and I wrote to her. That she didn't have email at that time, so I wrote to her, and we wrote back and forth, and we just managed to get it all worked out that I would go after I finished my master's at UNL. And I went. It's a little bit different than in the United States. You don't get in and have your audition until the school year is just starting. So I had to move there and do the entrance exam and then stay.
Was it a little bit scary for you to go all alone to the foreign country and foreign city, to the big city like Paris, right? And did you find that city friendly enough and the French system friendly enough?
Madame Langlais helped a lot, but yes, it was very scary, and I was worried because she had never heard me play. So I sent a cassette tape recording at my master's recital, and that's when she encouraged me to come. But the entrance exam was with an outside jury, so she couldn't guarantee me that I would get in. It was up to the jury, and everyone plays the set and program. So, I put them in, but yes, it was very scary, and I didn't know French. I just in summer school, the summer before I went, so my French was not very good at all, and basically just jumped right in. I was staying in international housing, so I was in a dorm that did have other Americans. Most of them were Masra program, and they weren't supposed to speak English. They're only supposed to speak French. So I didn't, very many friends in the dorm, but I got connected right away with the American Cathedral in Paris, and I sang in the choir there, and I was able to practice on the organ there, and I played on their Evensong organ recital series. And then my second year there, I ended up at St. George's Anglican Church, because another student had been playing there, and he had moved back to England. So then I was playing for the Anglican Church, so I had all of my friends there. So definitely the church connections helped a lot. And then also within the organ studio, can't remember exactly how many students we had, but it wasn't very many. But I became friends with some of the other organ students, and they would try to help me with French, and I would help them with English. And it was just a really supportive, great atmosphere.
Fantastic. I can understand that lots and lots of international students were there, probably, and you
yes,
were.
Yes, I had a friend. Yeah.
You were like a one big family, right?
Yes, there were students from Korea.
And how was Madame Langlais? Where was her focus on? Was she teaching you only the repertoire or improvisation as well? Mostly French music or other music as well?
Actually, only repertoire. And actually, when I got there, one of the first things that I did was Bach Trio Sonata and Buxtehude. Like, we started with German Baroque music, and then did more with French music. I did Franck C minor chorale, and I actually got to play that at St. Clotilde, so that was really exciting. Really just lots of everything. And then everything there was more focused towards competitions. And then we also had weekly class recitals that were open to the public. So you had to learn your repertoire very fast and play it. You never totally felt like you were ready in what I was used to in the United States. As you prepare recital, you sort of build up to it. It was just suddenly you're performing this, and so it was all very, very fast.
Right. I bet you had a lot of pieces to sight read as well, right?
Yes, and that's actually when my sight reading skills really, really developed. But I remember when I got back, when I finished there, and then I started the DMA at UNL, that I was able to learn repertoire much faster than when I had just done my master's program.
Mm-hmm. So I suspect you would advise organists to take sight reading challenge very seriously, right? And go about sight reading regularly, probably, right?
Yes. So you have the balance of sight reading and then also your practicing techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was in Paris, in this big city, and there were a couple of practice organs, but it was almost impossible to get in there. So that's when I got connected with a church so I could practice there. Really, it was second year at the Anglican church. I actually had a regular set practice time at an instrument. So I had to do a lot with analyte score analysis and, really focus on where the hard parts are.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the program, when you have the end of the year exam, everyone plays the same program and you have 5 weeks to prepare it. And, as soon as the list is posted, you just get your scores out and you start figuring out how am I going to learn this and have this really prepared for this exam.
So in the exam, you're saying everybody played the same pieces, right? Like a competition.
Yes.
So a very competitive environment, probably, right?
Yes.
Interesting. How did that affect your freedom as an artist? Basically, were you happy to play everything that everybody else was playing?
Well, you only did that for the exams or the competitions. And a lot of the competitions, you still had choices. It's like you play one of these four in each of the different sets. So those weren't totally the same. So the rest of the time you worked on, different repertoire. So you weren't always doing the same. It was just at the end, the entrance exams and the end of the year exams that were exactly the same. Or if you were in the same competition that had the same, you might have a little bit of overlap. But that was definitely a different concept because I was used to in the United States, everybody was playing different things all the time.
Right. This competitive atmosphere really pulls everything together, helps you focus on what's the most important, probably. And tell me this, Heather, did you have any music theory classes or harmony in Paris?
No, I didn't have any of that there because I already had a master's degree. That was all waived. Like I didn't have the ear training and sightseeing, solfege type classes that the other students had. I actually think it probably would have been helpful if I had gone through that in Paris, but I didn't. I only had lessons, and I had lessons at the same time, which was more technique based, just to really work on my technique.
Right. The reason I'm asking you this because usually music theory, good theory background and harmony background really does help with learning the pieces, right? And sight reading as well.
Yes.
Did you have that you previously mastered and had experience with music theory? It really helped you learn pieces quicker. Faster, I mean, in this way.
Yes. Knowledge.
Yes. So, Heather, what happened later when you came back from France?
Okay, well, when I came back from France, I got married to my high school sweetheart. We actually got engaged in Paris when he came to visit me. And I was the organ scholar at St. Cecilia's Cathedral in Omaha for 3 years. Coursework, and they got the new Posse organ there while I was there, so that was absolutely amazing to watch that being installed and able to play on that and play on the mean tone organ, and did my 3 years there, and then I moved to Arizona because my husband was out here, and at Lutheran Church for about 6 years, and played piano with the Phoenix Girls Chorus and went on all their tours. And then after having 2 kids, it was time to stay home more, so I got my job at St. Thomas the Apostle, and I played there on the weekends, and we do lots of great music there. We did the Duraflay Requiem for a concert last spring, and also in July at a conference. So I played that with the chamber orchestra and large choir.
Uh-huh. You mentioned St. Cecilia Cathedral in Omaha. I remember when we first came to Lincoln with Oshra, Pamela Reuter Finstra just mentioned briefly to us that Heather Hernandez is actually in Omaha witnessing the construction process of this fabulous organ, and we should get in touch with you, right? And
Yeah.
you basically know all about that instrument from inside out, right? Did you appreciate at that time the dual temperament that it has?
Yes, because I think that was about the time I was working on an early music recital for my DMA program. So I was able to play Buxtehude and things in mean tone there, so it was very exciting.
Fantastic. And of course, you could play not only on the mean tone temperament, but you could engage some well-tempered pieces for
Yes.
later
Yes.
music, right?
Yes, my going away recital, I was able to play a big work by Naji Hakim in Organo Cordis e Coro, and that worked just as well as the Buxtehude.
I know Naji Hakim has special place in your career, right? In his music. Can you tell us a little bit who first introduced his music to you?
That was actually when I was in Paris. My first year, there was going to be a 2-week school vacation, so all the French students were all going off on holiday, and I was still going to be around, and Naji Hakim was going to do a recording of his music at La Trinité, and he needed somebody to turn pages and help with registration changes, and I was chosen, so I met him there, and he just started playing, and I was just amazed by his music and his playing and his improvisation skills and just the entire experience.
Was his playing and improvisation in the same style that he wrote later his pieces?
Yes.
Do you think the same? Because sometimes people maybe hesitate to use the same writing style in their improvisations because their fantasies, creative abilities are so much more maybe advanced on the writing part than on the performing part, right? But you're saying that his improvisational music was or is basically very similar to his same stuff, right? So can you say us a little bit of how you would describe his music?
Very dance-like, rhythmic, exciting. Obviously, it's got contemporary harmonies. I fell in love with all the chant-based works, which is what I ended up doing my research on. And just lots of contrast, lots of colors.
Lots of colors,
yeah. His versions are specific.
And of course, all the French music is very, very colorful. That's thanks to special modes that they use, right?
Yes.
They of course, it all comes from Ravel and probably Debussy and other people around that period, right? But Naji Hakim's, did you find his choral-based or chant-based works using special French kind of modes?
Not specifically French. I mean, he went back more to the Gregorian chant mode, but still has more contemporary harmonies.
A lot of French composers, write their music in a very I would say free manner, right? For example, let's say Tournemire, right? It's very difficult to analyze music of Tournemire because it basically resists analysis because it's so improvisational. Did you find that Naji Hakim's music also is difficult to analyze?
Yes, in fact, I did it more with, here is the chant melody, and instead of a traditional type of harmonization with it, it was more melodic patterns, rhythmic patterns, the use of repeated notes, sequences, more, broken down to fragments of little melodic.
So basically, he would use the chant material as the resource for fragmentation, basically, right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Fragmentation, not necessarily to use the entire chant throughout and harmonize note by note, right? But break it down into many pieces, different pieces, and make improvisations based on those fragments, on those motifs, right?
Exactly.
Very clever technique, because it keeps playing and the piece sounding so fresh, because you can play one episode based on one fragment and another suddenly change something on another motive, and you can play entire maybe 10 or 15-minute piece in a very unpredictable manner. That's what I like about French music. It's very unpredictable, don't you say?
Yes, very much so. Very exciting, and the listener doesn't, totally know what to expect either. So it's exciting to play it and exciting to listen to it too.
Fantastic! I'm so grateful that you had the privilege, basically, to study his works and probably received some advice from the master himself, right?
Yes, I was able to interview with him when I first, got his music, and his teacher actually sent me a bunch of scores, and I would go, still playing at La Trinité there, so I would go and I would attend mass and just watch his improvisations. It was just a very exciting time for me.
Fantastic. And of course, your responsibilities mostly involve work with the choir, right? Accompanying the choir. Do you think that choir accompaniment is very easy skill, or you need to really learn the trade craft, basically, also?
I think you have to learn it, and basically I just learned it with lots of experience. Like I said, I've been playing for church since I was 13, and I was sort of thrown into it because the organist left for a different church, and I started playing once a month, and then suddenly I was playing every Sunday. I actually was an instrumentalist, so I was always in band. I did play in the handbell choir, but I hadn't been a choral singer. I had joined the church choir when I began.
Right.
So it took me a while to learn that.
And Heather, of course, you have a very active family life, right? So can you tell us a little bit, how do you manage to combine active family life with your responsibilities as an organist and accompanist?
Well, we finally got an electronic organ at home just so I had something to practice on. When I first moved here, we didn't even have a piano, so it was very difficult. I had to church a lot to practice. Then we got a Yamaha Clavinova, so I would have a small keyboard to practice on and at least be able to play some piano repertoire. And then we moved to a larger house. We got an organ used off of Craigslist that's got 2 manuals and pedals, so I can at least learn notes here. And then we inherited a grand piano from my husband's grandmother, so now we have that too. So I also have the piano, which has made it a lot easier, particularly on the French music. I like practicing that on the piano and really getting my technique and the notes all set before I put it all together at the organ. I also had to do that a lot in Paris, so that's what I'm used to. So I am able to practice at home, and the kids sleep upstairs and the organ's downstairs, so I don't have to worry about it being late at night. So that has helped a lot. And I was at I was the director of music, so I did all the planning and the playing, and that took a lot of time. And now I am only the organist, and I have a director of music who does all the planning, so time-wise that helps a lot. I'm just responsible for my preludes and my postludes and my own practicing of the choral music, but I don't have to go to any of the liturgy meetings or do any of the music planning. So that has helped a lot balance my time with the kids.
And probably, am I correct to say that balancing the time or finding the time to practice is probably the most important challenge for a family person.
Yes, yes. So, I only have right now, my preschooler only goes 4 days a week in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Next year he'll be in all-day kindergarten, and then my first grader, he goes all day. So I really only have a little bit of time in the afternoon, Monday to Thursday, when I don't have to worry about any interruptions with kids. And of course, when the kids are here, I want to be doing activities with them and helping them with things. I'm teaching my 7-year-old piano, so we have to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been the hardest time. But you pretty much have to make a schedule and just figure out, all right, this is my practice time. And it's like anything else. If you're like, oh, I'm too tired, I don't feel like practicing, but you have something coming up. Like I have confirmation.
Right.
There's Mass tomorrow, so I'm practicing for that. So usually once you just get there and you sit down and you get to work.
Right. You keep professional attitude, right? Whether you are tired or not tired is not too important because the deadline is coming up, right?
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. So particularly when we were doing the Requiem concert, that took a lot more practice time that I had done for years, and I really had to make a schedule and stick with it. Otherwise, I knew we were going to get to this public performance, and I wasn't going to be ready.
That's right. But as a family person, for example, what do you find the most inspiring for you as an organist, as a accompanist too? Do your family support you in your playing responsibilities, or you say, "Oh, mommy, please give us attention that we need"?
Actually, they're very supportive of it. Christmas is always a hard time because they're all into Santa and the fun things at home, and I'm at church for midnight mass half the night, and then I go back for Christmas Day mass, and then I come home and I'm and that's hard. And Holy Week is hard because we have the Triduum and through Easter, so we have the long Easter Vigil, and they basically don't see me much for 4 days when they're used to seeing me a lot. But as they get older, they're understanding how all that that works too. And then whenever I have extra things like confirmation, First Communion Mass, tomorrow I'll be gone for that. But they also get the religious aspect of it too, so that's helpful.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, Heather, for your insights, for your time, for generosity of sharing ideas. That's so great that you gave us a little bit of your busy life, family life, to share your ideas with the world. That's so amazing. Thank you so much, Heather.
Well, thank you, Vidas. It's been a pleasure to talk to you again.
Right. And for our closing of conversation, can you give us a link or a place where people can find you and your work online?
I'm pretty much on Facebook. It's just Heather Hernandez. I think it says Heather Harrington in parentheses. That was my maiden name. That's pretty much where I do all the social stuff. I do have a Twitter account that I don't use very much. I'm also an independent consultant for 31 Gifts. To give me some work at home opportunities. So I also have all of my business things for that. But mainly Facebook. I got tons of organists that are my Facebook friends all over the country. It's very exciting and keeps me in the loop with the organ world.
Great. I'll make sure I'll include all those links you mentioned in the description of our conversation. But tell us a little bit, can people find your book on Naji Hakim's organ music online? Yes,
actually, that was republished as a book. I can't remember exactly the year. I think it was 2008. And it's sold on Amazon. And Hakim, I can't remember. I think they changed the title a little bit, so I'd have to get you the exact title. But it's basically discussion of 3 chant-based works and Naji Hakim's improvisation companion book.
Fantastic. I will find this book and direct our listeners to this book on Amazon.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Heather, for our inspiring conversation. I think in summing it up, it shows for people around the world how you have to be focused and grateful for the family life that you have, and focused for the time, right? With the time that you have, a little bit here and there, it really helps, right? You don't have maybe many hours a day to practice, but you use the time available very wisely, right?
Yes. Use the time wisely. Also plan ahead. So I might be practicing something I won't play for a posted for 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Right. You are very, very focused and planning very far in advance, right? So that your deadline is not so surprising to you, but it's like a step-by-step approach, right?
Yes, especially if one of the kids gets sick and is home from school, which has just happened twice in the last month. Mm-hmm. Then you're still have the flexibility in your schedule that you can deal with anything that comes up, but still get your work done.
Fantastic. So I wish, Heather, all the creative bravery that you can muster this year and the next also, and keep playing, keep finding that time, and enjoy the family life, and share your ideas with your congregation, share your music. I'm sure they are very appreciative of what you're doing.
Oh yes, always.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.
If you liked this conversation, I encourage you to visit my blog Secrets of Organ Playing at organduo.lt, where you will find lots of insights, practical advice, and training for every area of organ playing. You can subscribe to this blog for free to get your daily dose of inspiration and to be the first to know when any of my future podcasts roll out. I hope to help you reach your dreams in organ playing. I'm Vidas Pinkevicius. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you online really soon.